Hello, everyone, and happy Tuesday. As I'm recording this, it is actually Sunday, and here in DC, we are being buried in snow and sleet at the moment. So I have kind of a short and sweet video for you this week because I need to get back to the very important business of sitting on my couch and drinking cocoa. But I did promise you a video this week about another item on the bucket list challenge that I am tackling these days, in addition to my flying trapeze classes, which featured in my last video. I'll link it up above. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. But if you are joining me for the 2026 bucket list challenge, which is linked down below if you want to check that out, do see the description for all the information about it. But there's a couple of items on the list that are habits. And if you are wanting to implement some new habits in 2026, I am too. So let's do this together. I recommend starting on those sooner rather than later, just so that you have plenty of time to solidify them and to refine your routines. If you slip up, say, and need to kind of reboot the habit, you have plenty of time to do that. It's much harder to do that if you wait until the fall to try and start a new habit by the end of the year. It might not be quite as solid a part of your routine by the end of the year. The key, if you have read Atomic Habits, you already know, is to try and make the habit part of your identity. And that takes some time. I have seen where psychologists have said that it takes supposedly 21 days to establish a new habit. To me, that is not even remotely close. I think that's nonsense. If you ask me, it's more like 6 months. I know in my own experience that I have stuck to things for 3 or 4 weeks and then given up on them, say, maybe after a couple of months. My cat is trying to join the video, so hopefully he'll be quiet and settle down, but he's wobbling the tripod. Okay, Edgar, sit down. Yeah, I have kept up plenty of good habits in the past for, a few weeks and then, dropped them maybe after 2 or 3 months. So if you ask me, in order for something to really become part of your identity, part of your personality, at least in my case, it takes more like 6 months than just 3 weeks. So anyway, specifically, the item on the bucket list challenge that I want to speak to today is the one about making a small, sustainable change to your diet. And what I'm doing is adding some leafy greens every day to my diet. Or at least trying to. I'm not perfect. I might not be able to eat some leafy greens every single day, but almost every day. And I don't mean like iceberg lettuce or even romaine lettuce. I'm talking about real nutrient-dense leafy greens like, kale, collards, spinach, chard, that kind of thing. I'll put a list up on the screen of things that I believe qualify. But those things that are just ridiculously healthy, full of vitamins, full of anti-cancer compounds, things that are great for your skin. I think a study I found online showed that if you eat some leafy greens every day, it reduces your risk of death by 25% across all causes. That's pretty incredible. They're basically medicine. I will leave it to you to Google more if you want to know more about how great leafy greens are. I think it is worth noting that I already do enjoy them. So I'm not trying to add something to my diet that I hate eating. I'm just trying to deliberately add more to my diet of foods that I already enjoy eating that are also just crazy good for you. And I think that's an important point, that if you want to make a change stick, it really helps if it doesn't feel like torture. Anytime I've tried to do something that I really just don't like I would like to like mushrooms, but I don't. I hate mushrooms. I know they're really healthy. I know they also have anti-cancer properties and so on, but I just don't like them. And no amount of trying to force myself to eat them is going to change that. So if you're trying to make a change, make it something that doesn't feel like a huge struggle to you. So how am I doing this? How am I adding these leafy greens? Mostly I'm just adding them to things I already eat. I have a smoothie that I eat 3 days a week for breakfast. And by the magic of editing, I am going to now take you into my kitchen and show you how I make that. Hi, good morning, everyone. It is Monday. No, it is Tuesday. And it's pretty early in the morning, so apologies for how I look. I have not combed my hair or put on makeup or anything. I'm in my kitchen and it's still pretty dark outside. And I just wanted to show you how I make my smoothie. 3 days a week, I have this smoothie for breakfast, usually Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I've been having it for years and I really like it. But I'm making a small change to it today, and I'm going to start adding a handful of greens to it. I've got some kale and some spinach that I'm going to throw in there. Sorry if I'm talking kind of low. My husband is still asleep, so I'm just trying to keep the noise level down. But yeah, I will show you how I make it. Okay, so first we are starting with some unsweet soy milk. Okay, and next we add a teaspoon of chia seeds. And then this is a heaping teaspoon of vanilla protein powder. This stuff. Then a teaspoon of rolled oats. Then a teaspoon of flaxseed meal, ground flaxseed. And then a teaspoon of almond butter, creamy almond butter. Okay, so now to add some greens. Got some shredded organic kale. It's going in there. And then also some baby spinach. I don't really know how much to put. This seems good. Then next, some frozen banana. Maybe like half a banana, basically. And then, of course, frozen blueberries. One-handed. All right, and now I'm gonna add a little hot water that is left over from making my coffee a few minutes ago. And this just, I find, helps everything blend a little better, and it keeps the smoothie from being too ice cold. I have pretty sensitive teeth, so I don't like things to be too cold. So there you have it. That is my breakfast smoothie, now with extra added greens. Tastes the same as it did before. Can't even taste that I've changed anything. It's good, very filling. This keeps me going until noon, so highly recommend. I'm sorry that I don't have like precise amounts for all of the things. I just have been making this for years and I just eyeball everything, so I know how I like it. But you know, adjust everything to taste. So that takes care of leafy greens 3 days a week. The rest of the time, I am more or less just adding them to whatever else I'm cooking. So I'm adding leafy greens to soup. I'm adding them to pasta. You can put them in an omelet. You can make salads with them, obviously. And I'm just kind of keeping a pot of greens on hand in the fridge just as my automatic go-to side dish. It's really easy to just cook a pot of greens. It takes only a few minutes. You can just saute them in some olive oil with some garlic and a little bit of red pepper flakes and some salt. And there you go. You have a really quick, easy, healthy side dish for whatever else you're cooking. And then I'm also collecting a pile of recipes. So I subscribe to the New York Times, and they have a phenomenal cooking app that allows you to save recipes to your recipe box. And they've got 2 folders. One is Want to Cook, and the other one is Favorites that you have already cooked. So I am just stockpiling recipes that heavily feature leafy greens in those folders, so that I can cook my way through them over the course of the year, and that way I am hoping that I can stave off boredom with this habit. So yeah, if you are trying to add something to your diet, start now to kind of collect your resources, like recipes that you want to make, or figure out how you're going to incorporate those items into things that you are already eating. And then also when I go out to eat, I am just trying to lean towards items that include leafy greens. So maybe I'll order a salad to start instead of another type of appetizer, or maybe I'll order a side dish that features leafy greens. I did that this week. I was visiting my dad, and we went out to eat at a restaurant, and I realized that it was dinner time and I hadn't had any greens. So I ordered a side dish of sautéed spinach with bacon and onions, and it was very good, and that was just a really easy way for me to get my daily quota of leafy greens. So if you are trying to do something similar with your diet, I would recommend making just a small change to what you're eating on a regular basis. Something that is simple and easy for you to implement. No huge dietary overhauls. I know from my own experience that those never work. I'm never ever able to stick with them. And like I said, try and give it about 6 months before you try to implement any other changes to your diet. If you try to do too much too fast, I can pretty much guarantee that you won't be able to stick with it. And that is not to impugn anyone's willpower. I think all of us actually have a lot of willpower, but willpower is such a variable. You might have a lot of it one day, but if you're like me, on another day, perhaps when you maybe haven't slept well, or you are otherwise very stressed out about something, you just don't have as much. Sticking to your health goals or your healthy intentions just doesn't feel like that high of a priority compared to making yourself feel better in the moment. So make your change kind of an easy one. Make it something that almost feels like it doesn't count, like it's too small and insignificant to count. Compounded over a long period of time, making small changes like that really does add up. That's the only strategy that has ever actually worked for me, and that is why I recommend it to anyone who is joining me for the 2026 Bucket List Challenge and wants to implement a new habit or two. Like I said, probably want to get started on those sooner rather than later, so that you do have that long stretch of time for them to kind of become rooted in your identity. If you would like to share what one small, sustainable, healthy change you're making to your diet this year as part of the 2026 Bucket List Challenge, or any other habits or goals that you're working on right now, please do drop a comment down below. I would love to hear what you're working on. And if you have any tips on making habits stick, I would love to hear those as well. I'm sure we would all love to learn from your experience, and also love to cheer you on in whatever you are trying to accomplish in 2026. And tune in next week for the not one but two bucket list items that I am working on to pass the time during this snowstorm. I am rereading a favorite series from my childhood, and I'm also trying some calligraphy. I probably should be decluttering my closet, but I've decided to save that item for like spring cleaning time. But for now, I'm going to head back to my couch, make some cocoa, and get cozy with my books and my calligraphy. If you liked this video, please click the like button, and if you want to see more, please don't hesitate to subscribe. I would love to have you. And if you want to be notified every time I post a new video, you can click the bell icon down below and you will get a notification every time I upload something new. And with that, I will say thank you very much for watching. I hope you're all staying safe and warm, especially if you are in the path of this snowstorm. By the time I post this, the worst will be over, but anyway, it's still going to be a very cold week, at least here in the Mid-Atlantic. And yeah, just hope you're staying safe and warm and have a wonderful week. Bye.